Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educating, capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
This is called a show.
Holy cow, Anthony. What a small world, man. This guest, it blew my mind when I originally was on a Zoom call and a Zoom meeting with some of our partners, and then comes to find out you actually know this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as soon as you started describing him, I was like, hey, I might know this guy. And sure enough, it was him.
It was, just his background of like, he has experience investing in real estate, but he's learned to kind of use different forms of, whether it's infinite banking, whether it's IULs, kind of create another source of, I guess you could say, active income to acquire more real estate. So I'm super excited to dive in with our guest.
Absolutely.
Our guest, Mr. Nate Smith. Nate and his wife, Bethany, are couplepreneurs and financial educators, passionate about helping individuals and families learn how money really works and to help them get on the path to creating their financial freedom. Their two primary passions are to help families learn the money game and helping people do extraordinary things by following proven systems and leadership in business, take control and create their ideal life. Nate has a background as a pilot in the Air National Guard, and he and his wife also have a background in real estate investing. So for our listeners at home listening to the Nine Doors Down show, let's welcome our special guest, Mr. Nate Smith.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks, guys, for having me.
How you doing, Nate? We'll semi-dive in to your story, but I just want to tell the guests how about a few weeks ago, I was invited. I got a text from, our mutual friends and partners, Marichelle and Yannick, to hop on a Zoom call. And I was like, you know what? I have nothing planned. I think it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I could make this. I could listen in. And I thought it was just going to be another multifamily call, motivational, more mindset. But really what piqued me that moment was we were talking about laundromats and car washes and all these other forms of like businesses that boomers, they're probably selling off at this point. So it's like a good opportunity for our generation. But even aside of that, after the call, we started talking. I was talking to Marichelle and Yannick about IULs, and I was letting them know how I've had an IUL since 2009. I've actually used it to take the cash value out, do a repair on a single family rental that I had, so that way I could sell the property. And then I pretty much just dumped that capital back into my IUL. So I just want to say that was super cool because Anthony and I, for the last few months, we've been exploring a lot of business opportunities, more specifically, probably vending machines or laundromats. But it was just ironic that I was on a call with you about that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great call.
It was, man. So before, before 2023, what was life for you, man? Before marriage, what was your background? Where'd you go to school? And, just basic info.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been married for 13 years. My background, as you mentioned, military. I joined right out of high school, enlisted in the Air Force, did active duty for 4 years. My childhood dream was to always be a pilot and fly for the military. So I pursued that goal, was able to accomplish that. I've been flying with the Air National Guard for the last almost 6 years now. I got 3 years left and I'll be retired. So I'm excited for that, but just do a couple of days a month. And I love the Guard because it allowed me to still pursue that passion that I have for aviation in a really cool environment, but also have the freedom and flexibility to pursue other goals we have and the big goal that for my wife and I was, we wanted to do life and business together. We wanted to do, I didn't want to have a separate career where I was gone all the time because the pathway I was going to go on was going to ultimately become an airline pilot if I stayed on it. And that's where all my buddies, that's what they all do. And the problem is my buddies are never home. And so they're either flying for the airlines or they're working at the Guard. And I was just like, I don't want to be gone all the time. I want freedom. I want opportunities. And the other thing too I love flying. I love aviation. And I actually went to the airlines for 1 year, and I just hated my life. It was just like go all the time. The pay sucked at that level, and to really get to a point where you make a decent income but still capped takes a long time. And so, so my wife and I were, we wanted to get into real estate investing, or not real estate, I should say real estate investing, but get into entrepreneurship. Real estate investing was kind of our first big jump into that world. We saw, hey, we could do this together, and the biggest challenge we faced in that process was something I call equity rich and cash poor. We came into the business where a lot of people come into the business with very little capital of their own, which we had zero. Spent a ton of money on a coaching program that we ended up not needing, and education. And so we came with a ton of debt and not a lot of income, and really just not a good stable platform to be coming into it. And then we ended up asset managing 4 properties, and it just took a lot of time and energy, but not producing a lot of capital. And so when I looked around the space, I was like, hey, all the big players that I see successful in real estate own some sort of business that generates a high income, whether it's, event sales, high ticket coaching, maybe they own a separate business. Our partner that we worked with on our deals, he owned a bunch of franchises that were cash cows. And I was like, okay, maybe we need to go figure out the cash flow game first and build a business that we can create, that we can scale, create great cash flow, we can build real capital, and then we'll come back and invest into real estate. And the other side of it too, for us anyways, we just didn't fall in love with the business aspect of real estate. We wanted to be true investors in real estate and not business owners in real estate. So, I see, like, if you're running a syndication, it's a business. If you're running, you're asset managing your own deals, they're running a business. And so for us, we realized that wasn't really our passion zone, but we do love investing in real estate. And so now I'm just figuring out how, build the business, get the capital, use different vehicles like IUL to build up that capital storage, and then deploy that into assets in the future. So that's been kind of our journey. We've had a couple different, there's definitely some milestones along that way, but that's kind of the big picture.
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1, analyzing your investment strategy. Number 2, discovering potential investors. 3, crafting your pitch. 4, securing your investment. 5, our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
Thank you for sharing that, Nate. Now, coming from a military background, is the investor mindset pretty heavy with those in the military?
No, I would say not. So I think where I developed a lot of my mindset as far as just the drive and determination to be able to get what I want basically out of life is, when I was 5 years old, I decided I want to be a pilot in the military. And that's not just something you just, I'll just go apply, I'll just go, it's an easy application to get into. And so that required a lot of focus, determination, and it really developed like a lot of the things I wouldn't even think about growing up, that a lot of we hear from like Ed Milet's and the Tony Robbins. We talk about manifestation and, envisioning where you're going to be and then creating it as you go. And that was what I was doing that as a kid, just constantly visioning myself, in the cockpit, flying the airplane. And I learned how to, I started getting my pilot licenses and doing all the things necessary. It's a very long journey. And so in that process, it really developed a mindset of like, hey, I can make anything I want happen. And so as I developed that, I realized that I could apply that outside the military, because the military doesn't matter what your job is. Everybody gets paid basically the same. It's all based on your rank. Doesn't matter your job is. And so I was like, maybe if I could apply this into another world like entrepreneurship, what's the potential? And so for me, that's kind of helped me develop that mindset. I mean, coming from the military, it's more about the leadership skill sets that we have. I think coming out of the military, that gets developed, the kind of the work ethic comes out of it. But as far as like investing in money and that sort of thing, no, not really. They don't talk about that. The only advice I got when I joined the military was, don't go buy like a Ford Mustang right off base at 18-20% interest or something like that. There wasn't a whole lot of financial education going on there.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about that, like college, right? They don't really teach you how to manage your money. Yeah, that's interesting. You say that, the military teaches you discipline and work ethic, but how can you kind of transfer that into the real world when you want to start your own business? Because sometimes you just can't go get a job right away, right? Like as soon as you come out of the military.
Yeah, it
But
depends on
kind of
what your
take us
background was.
through. I know you said you were vetting out kind of some of these businesses and different ways to. We call it, John and I call it, there's now money and then tomorrow money and then there's today money, right? So kind of talk us through like what your kind of like your process of like choosing the right business right now to build that revenue income.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of walk you through kind of our pathway to where we landed in the business we've chosen to really plant our flag in. So the first business I started, and this was what really solidified my desire to be an entrepreneur, was when I went to the airlines. I was living in California. I was sitting in reserve in LaGuardia in New York, and so I'd fly cross country, sit in a hotel for 4 or 5 days, and then fly back. When you're brand new in the airlines, you don't get called to go fly. You're like third string. Worst case, if they can't find somebody, they'll call you. And so I knew I was going to be sitting around not doing anything. So I started my first business. It was just online marketing. So I did digital marketing, affiliate marketing, that kind of thing. Started building sales funnels with ClickFunnels and that type of stuff. And I was making more money in a 4-day window sitting in a hotel than I was going to get paid for the whole month working at the airlines. And I was like, you know what? I could scale this. And so I started building that business. And the biggest challenge I faced in that was scale. And so the limitation I had on it was I was really self-employed, and the ability to scale that business, I wasn't really attracted to that process. And so and then also around that time frame, we started getting into real estate investing. We thought, okay, that will be it. We can, we thought, oh, you talk about cash flow, and we've all been to the events. We hear it from the stage, and they sell the dream and everything. You can retire in 5 years or whatever. But where we came into the business and where that world, and where we see a lot of other people come in that world, if you don't really have the ability to have true ownership in an asset, you really can't. What cash flow you do earn is going to be a small percentage. I'm sure we see it all the time. Oh, I own this many doors. Okay, cool. What percent? I own 1%. It's like, what do you actually own? And so when we started looking, kind of getting a look behind the curtain, I was like, oh, okay, we need to shift some things around. And how we landed where we are now, which we work in financial services, we have a financial services agency, is I was following a guy named Ed Milet, and following him for several years. I started digging into his history and his past, and what did he do to become who he is today? And I found out he did it inside of the financial services industry. And so I was always curious, it piqued my interest. And basically, we found out where there was an office from the same company he was associated with, World Financial Group, and showed up one day, said, hey, we want to know what Ed's company is all about, basically. And I liked what they showed me. We were big on financial education and teaching people how money works and helping people build a solid financial foundation and build towards their build a solid financial future. And I really resonated with me. And because one, it wasn't really something that I was taught a lot growing up, and something I discovered was really, really important. And so we got started. It's actually our 4-year anniversary like 2 months ago, and it's been everything we looked for in a business. We wanted the freedom to not be tied to a physical location. COVID really switched up our industry from a more in-person business to a more virtual business. Now we can run it all on Zoom and run it nationally, and it's allowed us to scale a lot faster than in other places. And the big reason I chose this industry was because it's evergreen. There's always people that want to know how to save money, get out of debt, save taxes, always need insurance. And then the other side of it is there's always people retiring and need help figuring out how to protect their retirement savings and that sort of thing. And so I feel like it's a very evergreen industry. It's an industry that's never going to go out of style, and we serve a middle market that is completely underserved from, the traditional industry. And you all know financial education isn't really taught anywhere in society today. So
let's double click on what you just said. That last statement. While we're going to school, we're sitting in a classroom, we're listening to one teacher. If we think creatively, now we're labeled as, oh, this guy's daydreaming, whatever. He can't stay on task. Yeah. You go to college, same thing, but the main difference is now you're piling on heavy student debt, right? If what is your take, and why are school systems teaching us to not be entrepreneurs, but to be in the W-2 and pay the highest chunk of taxes? Because in my belief, I feel like the middle class, especially in some states, more in certain states than the others, I feel like the middle class is getting shaved out right now, and it's been going on for such a long time. And it took me a while for me to see the light. But what's your opinion of why society has that mindset?
Yeah, if you look back at the history of our education system in this country, it's by design. It was created to create workers. It originally run factories. You know, you go all the way back to the Rockefellers and the history where they kind of started this education system. Like, hey, we need people to operate in these factories, so we just need people to be able to clock in and clock out. I mean, think about how the system is. How you go to school, like you clock in, you clock out, tell you when you can eat, and then that's your life for the rest of your life. And you feel like you can't do anything without someone else telling you when you can do it and how you can do it and all that kind of stuff. And so there's just the history there. But yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the middle class, the middle area is kind of getting squeezed big time. And I'm not anti-job. I'm not anti-W-2. I believe it's the lack of education in the right areas. Like, we're taught how to make money and how to spend money. Well, I don't think anybody's taught how to spend money. But we all learn how to make it. We only know how to make it in one way, and that's, like as you said, work for somebody else. And that's okay. I think you can be very successful working for somebody else if you have the right knowledge of what to do with the money. Because at the end of the day, I look at money as a game. And the first step of the game is you have to know how to get it. And there's 4 ways you can get it, as we all know, the cash flow quadrant with Robert Kiyosaki. You can be an employee, self-employed, business owner, or investor. And so there's 4 ways, but most of us are taught one way. And so if we can learn, but even if we only learn one way as an employee, if we can still learn the other piece of the money game, which is how to keep it, grow it, protect it, we could still become financially independent in a relatively reasonable amount of time, not 60 years old like the government likes to tell us when retirement is. Because retirement, in the way we teach people, is it's just a calculation. Once you get to the right amount of money saved, and saved and invested, I mean, like savings in a savings account, but saved and invested, that can produce the level of income you need to retire. If you can do it by 40, 50, 30, it doesn't matter. Once you hit that metric, you can be financially independent and not have to work if you don't want to. And so having the money, I think the financial knowledge is really where the middle class is completely underserved. Because they don't even know what to do with it. We learn how to make it, how to spend it, not how to save it, not how to grow it, not how to protect it. And so I think that's really where the problem is.
That's a great insight, Nate. So I think I could speak for a lot of people coming from the middle classes. We attend so many meetups, we go to conferences, we host meetups as well. And in my eyes, the typical person that gets into commercial real estate is they have a W-2. They're either really, they're really good at it, they're comfortable at it, but they're not quite content of where they're at in their W-2. Then, they may go to a conference or some type of seminar. Next thing you know, multifamily, right? Multifamily. And I'm a firm believer that, hey, you could get very rich with businesses, but how you build your true wealth is with commercial, or not just commercial, but just real estate in general. In our case, it happens to be commercial. What advice would you give someone so that way you could paint a realistic picture for them for when they actually invest into real estate for the first time, whether it's actively or passively? Because I speak to a lot of newer investors in the last couple of years. Some of them become co-GPs, but the first thing that they always have, a year later after the investment, is like, man, I don't have much. I'm getting some cash flow, but it's a couple $100 at a time. It's not enough to, really live off of. You may buy a couple tanks of gas, but, without discouraging our listeners, because a lot of our people is it's newer people getting into investing in real estate. What advice or what picture can you paint for them?
Yeah. So Ed Milet said this on a call once. He's talked about he calls the order in business. So if you look at someone who's super successful, you could do the things that they did, but if you don't do them in the same order that they did it, you're not going to get the same result that they're going to get. And so from that perspective and that mindset, I think it's important, especially if you're coming from no entrepreneurial background, you just got sold a dream from stage. I don't think what people are with the education part of real estate, I think gets underserved is the level of work required when you're going to do, especially if you want to be on the active side. Now, if you want to be on the passive side, it's simple. Just give your money to a syndicator, let them run with it. They'll pitch you back, a return. So it doesn't require a lot of time and energy. But if you're going to be on the active side, there's a lot of time and energy that goes into it, and there's no income. There's very little, if no income, that's going to come out of it, especially in the front end. It's going to take a long time to get there. The other challenge I see a lot of people face that come into the real estate space is not having that business background. They haven't developed the skill set of, talking to people about, and going to somebody and say, hey, want to invest in my deal. I got, 100 grand, 50 grand, like starting to raise money with very little history and background of track record in any way, whether it doesn't have to be in real estate. And so I believe it's important to figure out how to develop those skill sets, maybe in a different business, maybe somewhere where you can develop a track record, start developing those personal skills, those sales skills, that type of thing. And then also, I love Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone has this thing called the wealth cycle or the wealth wheel or something like that. But basically, he talks about the importance of, first thing, you got to get money, so create income, but then you got to increase your income. So I would be heavily focused on, how do I increase my income first, build up my own capital, and start investing my own money and actually getting legitimate percentages of a deal, so that I can actually create more cash flow, have more money working for me sooner. And then also too, if you can focus on increasing your income outside of real estate first, you can get into better deals, better opportunities, and you won't be stressed out. Building a solid financial foundation, I think, is so critical coming into this space, because if you don't have, you should have an emergency fund in place. You should have good income in place, so that if you're spending the time and energy to learn the real estate game, you have a cushion in not relying on it to change your life. Especially the first few years. It's going to take several years for it to really pan out. And so obviously, we all know millionaires are created in real estate. If you're going to build generational wealth and build wealth, you want your money working for you. And probably one of the best vehicles out there is real estate to be able to do that. But I think the order of business is, you need to get your income solid. You need to save up real capital. A lot of people I talk to, that I recommend it to, is get 100K. Just do whatever you need to do, get 100K liquid, and then come to the real estate game and actually come into it from a position of strength, versus do what I did and what my wife and I did. We came into it with $100,000 in credit card debt, not a lot of income, stress, pouring a ton of time and energy into it, stress to the max, and it ended up working out. We were able to get through it. We ended up selling our portfolio this year to focus on our main business, to solve the income challenge right now. We were able to pay off all the debt and everything, but that was a very stressful 4 years of experience that we had, because usually come out with a good foundation. So I think focusing on building a solid financial foundation, because I believe it doesn't have to be a stressful experience if you understand how to have that foundation in place, and then you can think clearer, you can make better decisions by doing it without having that financial stress.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with that, Nate. I think a lot of people don't realize that it takes time. You need time on your side to develop that wealth, in real estate, especially that first 3 to 5 years, right? For a lot of people, they start off, wholesaling, then they get into flipping.
Yeah.
Flipping, now they're starting to hold on to some properties, and then they scale up to maybe commercial. But for the listeners out there, this is real estate is a game of long-term wealth. It's not, you don't get rich overnight, but you could get very wealthy over time.
Yeah. Ryan Pineda, he put out a video recently, and he's a big real estate guy in Vegas. And he was talking about, especially right now with kind of the ecosystem, and he does more smaller multifamily, single family, but either way, he's talking about cash flow is not the play right now. It's equity. It's, you're buying for future cash flow. Of course, the property needs the cash flow in order to be able to take care of itself. But we're talking about cash flow to pay your bills. That's not really the play right now. But long term, it can turn into that. You buy a property now, you build the equity, you pay it down, you increase rents over 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually, it's going to become not only going to become a ton of equity for wealth and net worth, it's also going to be able to produce that cash flow in the future. But what are you going to do between the next 10 to 20 years to get to that position? And that's where business, I think, is a better entry into this world. If you can figure out how to scale your income which is very hard to do as an employee. My opinion is if you do have a job, you should probably be looking at a side business to create more income, to give you more capital. And preferably, for us, one of the reasons why we chose the business we were in initially was because it gave us a lot more freedom. When we were in the active role of managing properties and asset managing and things like that, we needed the freedom to be able to jump out to our market and check on our properties and do all that kind of thing. And with a job, you may not be able to just jump in a plane on a random Wednesday to go check on your property. We could do that because we could operate our business from anywhere. And then just for the challenge we were facing, the time and energy that was taking away from us, from the ability to scale our main business. This is why we sold everything this year, but ultimately we'll get back into the game.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nate. Because as for me personally, like I still have a W-2, and I also own a franchise restaurant. You know what I mean? And we own real estate, and you make a great point where, yeah, the first 2-3 years of trying to be a syndicator, there's really no money there in the beginning. Fortunately for us, we were buying some of the deals ourselves, and then we didn't really jump in syndication right away. But overall, our goal is to buy more real estate. And I guess another point is you got to learn to balance your regular life, right? Because I have a W-2. I own real estate. We own real estate. I own a restaurant, and people are always asking me, why do you still have a job? Because I enjoy my job, and I don't have to quit because I learned to balance. I can still generate my income, do my job, and still be able to balance out and still work on, managing the restaurant, which you get managers for, or you put the right people in. And same thing, it's building a team in your real estate kind of like plan. So I think I think that's a great point for listeners. Like sometimes you got to think outside the box. It's okay to have a job, but when you have that how do you call that income that's coming in on a regular basis, starting another business on the side and doing it and then putting in real estate is really the way to go.
Yep. And you said one thing, owning real estate. You listen, like anybody who buys real estate, the only regret they ever have is selling, right? And the reason I never was a fan of syndication for me personally is because the whole purpose of it is you're going to sell the property in 5 to 7 years. And so it's like you're not going to hold it because you have to. That was the plan you put in place for the investors that you raise money for. And so I was like, I want to own real estate. I want to own assets. I don't want to sell assets. And so I was like, hey, how do I get myself in a position to do that? And maybe syndication is a pathway to do it. Maybe you decide to do syndication because you can generate acquisition fees, you can build up capital, or you do wholesaling, or you do fix and flip, or you do something totally different outside of real estate, which is what we chose to do. But building up the capital so you can go actually buy an asset, and you're not going to be forced to sell it because that was the business plan you put in place to all the investors that you raise money with. And I think that's where real wealth is built in real estate. It's in the owning of real estate, the long-term ownership of real estate, or assets in general. I don't want to say just exclusively real estate. It could be businesses or other things too. But owning that asset long-term is really where that wealth is created. Because as soon as you sell it, no longer there. So you're starting over.
Yeah, no, that's a super great insight. Kind of like piggybacking off of what Anthony was saying about with us. So like we have a mixture of strategies for one asset class. So we have our fund. We work with other sponsors and we syndicate deals, but we also have joint venture deals where we have more. We're not quite raising as much capital as like syndications, but we have more equity on our side, more cash flow just for us and maybe like 2 or 3 other partners. And we look at things at the value add space, right? So for those in real estate that is not quite looked at like, acquiring businesses, the way I see it is it's value add. So you find a business, whether you add value by maybe it's the price points, maybe it's the operations and management. Can you talk on or speak on like kind of the parallels as far as like acquiring the real estate and business and like how the value add plays is almost in my eyes is very similar.
Yeah. So I think the advantage in business, especially if you're going to go with like, we're talking about, acquiring a lot of the mom and pop businesses who are going out of business, their kids don't want to take it over, is you can create cash flow a lot faster there than you can in, especially in the multifamily space. Now, if you're going to go into like short-term rentals and that sort of thing, you can generate, good cash flow doing something like that. But if you're if your goal is multifamily, and you want to build something that's going to create cash flow, business is definitely going to get you cash flow faster, I think, in most cases, unless you can really go in and buy and own the majority position in an asset. Maybe you can create more cash flow that way sooner. But I think the business side, the value add you can bring into a business, especially these mom and pop businesses, where they're running with no marketing, and they have old school, technology operation, you can just go in there and just basically infuse social media with a modern point of sale. And just by doing that, you could probably just revolutionize how that business operates, and then just generate a ton of more revenue and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of opportunities there, in that space, to be able to do that and add that value. But one thing I want to kind of point out. So I think the ultimate goal here for most people who are probably listening to this podcast, or they want to get into real estate, into business, is we're all looking for one thing. We're all looking for freedom. And the freedom really comes in the form of time and money. And and to do that, you need basically I don't really like this word, but we'll use it, passive income. Minimal input for maximum output is another way I like to look at it. So the only two ways you can do that is you either have to put your money to work for you, or you have to put people to work in the form of a business. And so if you don't have the money, then the other opportunity is to go put other people to work. And by owning a business, owning a system, putting the right people into place to run that business, like you're saying, I own a restaurant, but I have managers to take care of the day-to-day. My input is minimized because I have the right people to operate that business. I just have to oversee it, make sure, put out fires here or there, but I'm not to be in the business constantly to be able to make sure, to be operating it like that. And so there's looking at that from that perspective is, I think, key. And that's where I think the business side is definitely going to get you that cash flow faster, that freedom faster. And then when you have the freedom, then you can afford the time to go, look at deals. I mean, I'm sure you guys are doing it a lot right now. I mean, how many deals do people have to look at right now to find a good apartment deal these days? I mean, if I got started, it was about 100 deals to find one. This was before interest rates went up. And now a lot of the guys I talk to, it's like 300 deals to one. And so it's like, there's a lot you got to go through. That's a lot of time and energy. So if you can have a business over here that's generating you, I don't want to say passive income, but income with minimal input, that keeps your low stress in the home. You're not worried about the money side, the cash flow's coming in, all the bills are paid. You're comfortable on that side of things. Then you have a clear mind, clear focus on running deals and looking for opportunities and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I mean, just the fact that you're talking about the looking for deals. Like, so what we've done is we've partnered up with the right people, so we don't have to be looking for those deals. We have specific guys that are looking for those deals for us while we focus on our specialty, I guess, in the business. Yeah. And I think that's a better way to kind of scale your business as you grow. Yeah. But speaking of that, go ahead.
Well, I was just say, in the multifamily, it's a team. Like, business is a team sport, so you have to build a team, and people come in to play different roles in different teams. It doesn't matter if you're going to come in, you're going to be a deal finder, you're going to be an underwriter, you're going to be whatever role you're going to play. Still having that solid financial background, financial foundation, good solid income, so you have the freedom to play that role. And so, like, for us, for you guys who you go out and you find the people to handle that piece for you, but that person still needs to be in a position to be not stressed out, and in that process, they can have that foundation of like, hey, we're good. We got money, cash flow coming in, the bills are paid for, family's taken care of. I have the freedom of time to be able to invest without being stressed out about, where's my paycheck coming from. Yeah,
absolutely. Now let's kind of talk about maybe what you're working on now and what you're doing with WFG. I don't know, maybe you can give us some insight on how you help, entrepreneurs or financially, how you help them out and kind of guide them, and which way to go in the investing world or entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So the big thing I loved about WFG, the first thing was what we teach on the financial education side. It's really about helping people understand how money really works and helping them build a solid strategy to get them from where they are now to where they want to be in the future. And so we aren't financial advisors. We're financial educators. So I don't advise people on where they should invest their money, but I help them understand how different vehicles work so that they can best position their money to be able to do what they want it to do for them. So one question I always like to ask people is, hey, first off, what do you want to do with your money? And then what do you want your money to do for you, both now and in the future? And then looking at what are the different vehicles with which you can go place that money so that it will allow you to do those things now and in the future. What options do you want to have? And so that's how we figure out what vehicle is going to make the most sense. And so look at whether it's 401ks, IRAs, IULs, whatever the vehicle is going to be, real estate. Where am I putting my money now to be able to use it later? Do I need it? Do I want to use it, in my 30s and 40s, or am I willing to wait till I'm 60? Like, there's different variables, and just nobody really understands how any of that stuff works. So that's really where we provide the most value, is just helping people understand what those things are, and then teaching them how they can better save money, how they can better make sure their families are properly protected, make sure how to eliminate all the bad debt, and how to protect and preserve that wealth at the end of the day. So that if you do a good job of building wealth, you want to make sure that wealth transfers as a legacy and not a burden. Because if you don't have a will, a trust, and a good, estate planning in place, families are just going to fight it out in probate court for who knows how long. And so just teaching those principles and those concepts is really what we're all about. And then on the product side, we work with all the biggest insurance and financial companies out there. We offer a diverse portfolio of solutions to be able to help our clients in protect their families, protect their businesses, protecting their finances, and that sort of thing through different insurance type vehicles. So that's what we do on the client side. It's really focused on the education. But on the business side, we can really scale. And what I loved about this system was, it's we operate just like the real estate world. I own my own agency with WFG, just like, maybe a broker owns an agency with Keller Williams or something like that. And we build agents, and we help them be able to go out and serve their marketplaces and be able to generate great income doing it. But then the big separator that I really appreciated about this system was, because my wife worked at Keller Williams in that traditional broker system. And the challenge that she ran into was the team she worked for, she worked for the number one producer in this office in Utah. And she wouldn't move out and start her own brokerage because she didn't want to lose the mentorship of her current broker. And her current broker had no incentive to have a conversation with her to do that. She was fully qualified, and she could reduce a lot of stress by having, diversifying the amount of people she could put to work underneath her. That system doesn't allow for that. But in WFG, it is. We have a system where if we help build agencies, we take an agent and build an agency with them, we get paid a royalty for creating that. And so the ability to scale was something that was really attractive for us. So right now we're really focused on the next 12 months is we want to develop 9 agencies in different markets. It's all virtual nowadays. Everybody can run their business virtually from anywhere as long as you got an internet connection, which is made it way easier. Like I look at like Ed Milet and some of these other big players who built this business back in the day. And, Ed built it in Southern California, traveling in LA traffic and, Southern California traffic. And, you're lucky if you get a handful of appointments done in a day. Now you can run 5 to 10 appointments and still have, and it only takes half a day to do it. Should be a lot more efficient and a lot more, get more done in a timely manner. But just the scale of it. And what I liked about this system as well is we've done the traditional business side before. Like we built the marketing business from the ground up. When we did the real estate space, we built a management company. We built a team doing all of that. So we went through the traditional aspect of kind of building a business from scratch. And I was like, I'm trying to get to the goal of freedom here. And I don't know if I don't necessarily want to go through that whole process. Some people are built for that. I was like, I'm just trying to get to the goal as quickly as possible. And so I like being on a platform like WFG where they already had a proven system. I had leadership I could follow, like follow in their footsteps, and it was proven. They have a good track record of producing very successful business owners in the financial industry, and so it just made sense for me. And I'm a big believer that success as an entrepreneur does not have to be based on your ability to build something from scratch, but can be based on the ability just to follow proven systems and leadership kind of similar to like Anthony with you. You have your franchise. The benefits of the franchise is proven brand, proven platform, marketing, distribution, all this stuff in place. We have similar characteristics with what we have. We have home office support, access to distribution, scale systems. We don't have to recreate it from scratch. We just have to learn how to operate that system. And the better you can operate the system, more efficient you can be, the more you can scale.
Yeah, that's amazing. As far as WFG, I'm a strong advocate of WFG. Back in 2009, I signed up for an IUL, myself and my wife. And I see the benefits of it and how I kind of parlayed it into real estate. Can you? I don't know if you could speak freely on IUL. I know you guys have a lot of products, but I do want to kind of focus on the IUL. What is an IUL? What does it stand for? And how does it differentiate from other quote unquote insurance policies?
Sure. I mean, so it stands for Index Universal Life. It's a type of insurance policy that allows you to build cash value. And I'm a big believer in permanent insurance. There's a lot of people that are all about term insurance, and I'm up for term. I'm up for everything. I think it's important. The most important thing first off is making sure you have the right protection for your family and for your business, because while you're building wealth, if something happens, are you ensuring and guaranteeing you're going to create generational wealth for your family? So that's the first reason I bought an IUL, was because I have a goal of building generational wealth for my family, and I want to ensure that no matter what happens, that's going to be established. And so I have lots of insurance on me because of that reason. So if something happens while I'm building it, I have the right tools in place, all of the estate planning in place for all of that. In addition to that, once that piece is covered, the IUL gives you a lot of opportunity and flexibility, because you're able to store and grow money inside of it. That cash accumulates on a tax-deferred basis, but they allow you to access it tax-free to be able to utilize for opportunities, and really any opportunity that you want. Unlike a self-directed type IRA or 401k, where they give you a list of things you can use your money for, and then also too, those investments return back to you inside that vehicle, which still have restrictions until you're 60 to be able to really use it without penalties. The IUL gives you a vehicle where you can store and grow capital. You can deploy that capital into opportunities like real estate or other assets or anything that you want that you deem makes sense. And then you can, like you said, you deployed it into an asset, you sold it, you put the money back. I did the same thing on a couple of properties that we acquired a couple of years ago. And so it just gives you more flexibility and opportunities for your cash while making sure your family's properly protected along the way. You still get you can still get a decent yield internally on it. It's not going to be a home run product. So if you're comparing it to the stock market, there's no comparison or any other type of investment, but it's a safe and secure place to be able to get a decent rate of return. And then when opportunities present themselves, you can leverage on that money for opportunities that present in the future. And so one concept I like to kind of teach or talk to you about is how the wealthy use assets to buy assets. They use assets, they leverage assets to acquire more assets. And so I look at as the IUL is an asset with which I can build up cash value similar to equity in a property, and I can use that asset to acquire other assets, and I can just kind of create this wealth loop or wealth cycle utilizing that product. But at the end of the day, I want to just kind of caveat, make sure that if you're going to get a product, that you have someone that can actually educate you on the ins and outs of it. Make sure you fully understand how to operate that asset. Just because, like anything, if you don't operate it correctly, it will not perform, the way you hear people talk about it on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. There's way too much stuff I think out there right now that is not accurately representative of how that all works. And so just make sure that you are understanding what you're doing with it. You understand how to operate it properly. Just like, if you're going to buy a piece of real estate, you want to operate that asset correctly to be able to produce the result from that asset. Same thing, I think, with an IUL is, especially if you're going to use it for those purposes, you want to make sure you're operating it correctly so that you're getting the value that people say you can get from it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I don't know, is this even possible? Are you able to roll over an old 401k into an IUL?
No, you can't do that.
That's even possible.
You can't do that. No, you can't do that. Yeah, because that's a qualified plan. it's deferred on taxes, so you could not roll it over. I would never recommend someone to do this, but you would, in order to get the money out, you would just have to like completely cancel, pay your taxes, pay your penalties, get the money in a savings account. Now it's a liquid asset, and then you can deploy whatever you want, use it for whatever you want after that point in time. But yeah, we can't directly roll over those types of accounts. There are other solutions out there you can roll it over into. Like if your goal is ultimately real estate, you could do a self-directed IRA, a solo 401k. Those are other assets that you can still avoid any taxes or penalties, but get that money deployed into a vehicle where you have more options to be able to deploy that money into deals. It's just the only challenge is that's for building wealth long term, right? Because if I invest into an asset with a self-directed IRA or solo 401k, all those returns come back to the self-directed IRA or the solo 401k, not to my bank account. And so that's going to still be tied up until I'm 59 and a half, which is totally fine. In fact, I don't set this, I can't help people with this specifically, but this is a really important concept to think about and how this game is played. When you look at how the wealthy play the money game, and you look at how the middle class plays the money game, you'll see I get these ads on Instagram or Facebook all the time. The 401k is the worst thing in the world, and the wealthy don't have 401ks, and that's not true. It's just not true, because it's about how the game is played. There's two sides of the game. There's the 401k that the middle class gets sold, and then there's the 401k that the wealthy use. The ones that the wealthy use, they build millions and millions and millions of dollars inside of them because they know how to move their money if they don't let someone else move their money. So the middle class gets a 401k through their employer. They just let someone else take care of it all for them, which if you let someone else do it, you're going to be paying them to do that, which means that reduces your potential, what kind of return you can get on it. Versus the wealthy, they'll leverage those vehicles because they know how to move that money and they can scale that money very quickly. For example, look up Peter Thiel. He turned $2,000 in a Roth IRA, self-directed, into $5 billion in around 5 years, because he knew how to move that money in the right vehicles, and he self-directed how he moved his money. Now he's still inside of an IRA, so technically you can't use it to your 59 and a half. Though, if I had that kind of money, I like 10% penalty, whatever. It's better than paying taxes. But just understanding, I'm a big believer. This is where financial education, I think, is so key. There's a difference between being financial educators versus just salespeople. Obviously, I sell products. I make commission on the things that I sell and help people with. But for me, I'm really focused on understanding how the game is played and understanding there's two completely sides of the game, different sides of the game. And most of us are taught I call it the contribute. Well, I didn't coin this term, but I heard this from a guy named Andrew Cordell. He's part of the Aspire tour. If you haven't got to check it out, it's pretty awesome. But he talks about there's contributors and there's creators. And most of us are raised as contributors. We contribute to our IRAs and 401ks. Then you have creators, where they create opportunity to move their money and generate incredible wealth that most of us never do. I mean, it's just crazy how they're playing the game on the other side of the table versus the game that we're taught to play. And so leveraging insurance, leveraging these different vehicles, there's two sides of it. There's the way the middle class use it and how Dave Ramsey says to use it, and there's how the wealthy use it and how the banks use it. And so it's like understanding, do you want to play the wealthy game or do you want to play the middle class game? And that's it.
That's man, this is some heavy stuff, Nate. You're dropping some gems. I still think it may go over to some people's heads, which is totally fine, because I was that guy just a couple years ago. But the main thing is we want to bring awareness to all the stuff that's out there that's available. And for one, you just got to kind of just seek and just ask questions to find it. And I think I'm hoping this episode will just plant a seed with some folks. I don't want to, take up too much of your time. So I think it's best that we go to the lightning round right now. So this is the section, Nate, where Anthony and I will just each ask like a really random question just for our listeners to get to know the unprofessional, unbuttoned up side of Mr. Nate Smith. So the first one here is, you're stuck on an island all by yourself, no friends and family, but you are able to keep your iPhone or your your Android, whatever device you have, but you're only able to load up either one music artist or one album that you could listen on repeat over and over again, and you won't get tired of it. What album or what artist would that be?
That's a great question. If you look at my my playlist, it's totally random. I like songs versus artists, but probably if I'm stuck on an island, I don't know, probably like Jimmy Buffett. I'm sitting on an island.
So Jimmy Buffett?
Like, something like that. Yeah, Jimmy Buffett on the island. I think that's probably that's the first thing that comes to mind if I'm just sitting on an island by myself. Hopefully I got a nice drink in my hand too.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. So you're a pilot, so I'm sure you've been all around the world already. But my question is, if you would prefer, if you were to go on vacation, would you prefer tropical or somewhere in the mountain area? And if so, where would it be?
I think majority would be tropical. I do enjoy the mountains occasionally, but tropical is definitely more our style. And my bucket list one right now is Fiji.
Fiji, nice. Yeah, I want to go to Fiji soon. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. That's definitely on my bucket list too. I want to knock that out in the next year or two.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
So Nate, man, I have a feeling we could have gone on for another 3 or 4 hours just talking with you, and I don't even think we've even touched the surface chatting with you, Nate. So we would love to bring you back, just maybe a couple months down the road, and
Sure.
maybe things may change up in Q1 of Q2 of next year, definitely in the multifamily space. Where can our listeners get a hold of you? Social media accounts, email, websites.
Just check me out on Instagram. I'm at the real Nate Smith on Instagram, and you can get connected to me through all the other platforms through that. I got my link tree up on there, so you can get connected to me there. But Instagram is probably where I spend most of my time. So the two big ones, the real Nate Smith, and then for just kind of following my wife and I, we also are at Your Cashflow Couple. And so those are two great places to check us out and check out our content and connect with us.
Thank you, Nate. And next one, maybe we should have your wife hop on too. That'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We, one of our big missions together and is to inspire other couples who want to be able to do life and business together and show them how to do that. And so that's a big part of another driver behind what we do, is trying to, helping people who want to be able to make that happen and show them how they can do it.
Nate, thank you again for your time, for hopping on this call. It's funny how just the universe works, man. We happen to know mutual people. We happen to talk about similar things as far as cash flowing businesses on top of real estate. So we're very grateful that you hopped on. And for those listening at home, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the 9 Doors Down Show. Please like and follow us. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. And on that note, we out.
Peace.